Hey guys, what's going on? It's Eli, back with another review video, and yes, that's right, you read the title, you know exactly what I'm reviewing, and as was teased in the last review video, yeah, I gotta say, I knew that I would enjoy this movie, but I had no idea, and I didn't expect that, wow, this was really, really good. It really was. Yeah. And it's a shame because, I mean, not to say that it was received, god-awful or anything, you know what I'm saying? Just, yeah. But, yeah, sadly, it turned out to be an okay film, you know what I mean? And a 50% score on Rotten Tomatoes, just, yeah. But again, it's not god-awful or anything. I mean, it's fine, it's entertaining, but for me, I really enjoyed this. I really did. And I'm sure the same goes for some of you, because, yes, again, you read the title, you know exactly what I'm reviewing. From 2024, John Krasinski and Paramount Pictures, If. Yes, If. Oh boy, yeah, If. This movie about imaginary friends coming to life, and there's really only two people, and most notably one person, that can see these imaginary friends, alive and right in front of your face, and, well, us audience can see them too, yeah. And what goes down in the story from beginning to end, yeah, again, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, I can't remember exactly what I first thought of this when I heard that this was coming, and, when seeing the trailers, and, well, obviously, when I reacted to the trailers, yeah, I gave it some positive things and such, and, the fact that the same dude who brought us the Quiet Place movies, was directing this, going from, intense, scary horror movies to a family-friendly film. I think he did very well. Yeah, John Krasinski did really good at directing this kind of movie. Yeah, and yeah, If being another film of Krasinski's from Paramount Pictures, because yeah, the same goes for the Quiet Place movies. Yeah, also, the way that the imaginary friends, the way they look and their design, very creative, of course. I mean, they have to be creatively cool-looking and such, yeah, because that's the thing with imaginary friends, And by the way, because, I want to say, I'm pretty sure, yeah, because I think some people, and I know a few of my friends, remembering something else that we had gotten that had to do with imaginary friends, and that being, of course, Cartoon Network's Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Now, me personally, I, of course, had seen some of Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends, and, watching this movie, well, even though that they share a few things in common, the whole thing of imaginary friends, isn't it obvious that they're still different from one another, But, also, the fact that they also, what else they share in common is they have an imaginary friend character who goes by the name Blue, but still different, and especially, like, how their names are spelled, you know what I mean? Just, yeah, you know this by now. Yeah, and I thought that, I thought that If, which, by the way, and how it's, and they even established this in the movie, If is short for imaginary friends. Yeah. Great acting. And even with the voice acting to the imaginary friend characters, and whom voices which, which is really cool. Yeah, and especially because, with our two main human characters, yeah, they're just everything about If. I enjoyed it from beginning to end. Again, I knew that I was going to enjoy this, but I didn't know and expect that, yeah, I really enjoyed this. Yeah, just overall, If, I definitely recommend it, and yeah, it's really good. It really is. Alright, so, as always, and yeah, with the first things I have to say about If and such, with that out of the way, now, as always, for me, read the description / the story. After discovering she can see everyone's imaginary friends, a girl embarks on a magical adventure to reconnect forgotten imaginary friends with their kids. All right, so now getting into the film itself, because first off, I like how the Paramount logo opens, and in the style and theme to this movie. That's nice to see. And, I always love that, and if I've talked about this before, where it's sometimes, once in a while, movie studios can be creative, and, when their logos show, it can go with the theme and such to whatever movie it is, sometimes, and in this case for If, but also, not only did Krasinski direct this, but he also wrote the film as well. And I would imagine that he obviously got some inspiration, maybe from his kids or something. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure. But anyway, so getting into the film itself, our main character, which being B, which being spelled B-E-A, we see a young B and her parents, and we can tell right away that they're this very, warm, happy family. And even when sometimes, we first see B's grandmother, and B, at age 3 and 5, being played by Audrey Hoffman, and B's mom, being played by Catherine Dedorato, if I'm even pronouncing her last name again, you know me sometimes. I was kind of having a feeling that, okay, especially when seeing the trailers and such, we're only seeing the dad. What about the mom? And sure enough, because with the movie starting off with say home, movie footage, on a video camera, where we see B and her parents, and they have a happy life. At a certain point, B's mom, unfortunately, is coming down with cancer. And she lost her hair. And, after that opening sequence, the montage of what was recorded on camera, sadly, B's mom passed away. And we get the title of our movie, and, present day in Brooklyn, New York City. Yes, B is temporarily staying with her grandmother at a Brooklyn apartment, and B, being played by Kaylee Fleming. I think I'm saying her first name right. Whom before this was probably best known for playing young Rey in The Force Awakens, when Rey has those visions when she touched Anakin's lightsaber, and her as Rey as a young girl, come back! That's her, And let me tell you, Fleming as B, she did not disappoint. I think she was really good in this movie. And by the way, B's grandmother, being played by the one and only Fiona Shaw, aka Harry Potter's mean old aunt. She'd also been in Andor and a bunch of other stuff, and she also, maybe some of you don't know this, Fiona Shaw was in the Super Mario Brothers movie, the one with Bob Hoskins and John Leguizamo, that one. More specifically, to put it this, the live-action Mario Brothers movie. I bet you probably didn't know that, she was in that. She was, but, Anyways, Fiona Shaw, how can you not enjoy Fiona Shaw in anything that she does? Of course, she, too, was good in this as well, and she played a pretty good grandmother character in this movie, And, sadly, because, how times have changed for B, and after the passing of her mother, her personality being a bit different, nothing too extreme, just her, not acting like a kid anymore, refusing to be called as a kid, and so on, And the reason, why B is temporarily staying at her grandmother's in a Brooklyn apartment, it's because, currently, B's dad has gone into a hospital for surgery, And by the way, B's dad, as he's credited, is John Krasinski. So not only did he wrote/direct this movie, he also plays the dad. Of course he has to be in a movie of his and play a character. Krasinski doesn't have, his character, the dad, doesn't have a huge, big part in this movie, but kind of, just, we don't see him that much in this. Well, besides, Krasinski being the director, so yeah. And there's another character that Krasinski plays, but until I get there, I think I actually forgot at one point that he was the voice of one of the imaginary friends, but I won't say who it is until I get there, okay? So, but probably some of you know by now, but anyways. So, continuing on, because, yeah, at times in this movie, and since I brought up her dad, at times, Bea would visit her dad in the hospital, and, well, her dad, still acting, like a funny person, like a kid at heart and such, and also, like, the water patch, on wheels, that thing, like, he made it up as, like, a lady, dancing and such. And the dad's nurse, yeah, Janet being played by Liza Cullen Zayas, I think I'm getting her full name right, yeah, she plays Janet, and Janet meeting Bea, and the dad has told so much about his daughter to Janet and so on, and, the dad assuring Bea that, it'll be alright, and, well, even telling her that, he's not her mom or anything like that, and, unbuttoning his shirt, and, I have a broken heart, literally, because, he placed, a heart and such, broken in half. Just, that was pretty funny. But, yeah, and, Bea, later on, because, yeah, at one point, when back at her grandmother's apartment, well, she hears a noise and a rustle, and she goes into the room that she's staying in, her bedroom, and the window was open, then she went to the closet, and something moved in the closet, whatever it was. But then she also discovers a home video camera and such, and at times we would see her watching the old recordings of when she was little and when her mom was alive, and yeah. And then at one point when she went to go outside for something, get something at a convenience store, I want to say, yeah, we saw someone watching her go downstairs, down all those stairs in the apartment building, and looked very suspicious, like whom was right there, and we could see gloves and such. What's going on here? Well, yeah. And after Bea finishes her business in a convenience store, and by the way, the deli guy, as he's credited, being played by Ed Herbstman, if I'm saying that right? Yeah, I think so, yeah. At one point, she happens to see a mysterious, strange-looking figure crossing the road and calling out hello, and we can hear the mysterious figure's voice, like, oh my god, she can see me, and it's a British voice, and Bea is chasing after whomever it is, and, well, making their way back to the Brooklyn apartment, and still following whoever it is way up upstairs, and then, yeah, Bea can hear the voice of whom it is that she was following, and hear someone else's voice, and, just her saying hello, and, hasn't really found any friends and such, but then, someone, steps out of her room. She's credited as Woman Upstairs being played by Barbara Andress. I think, yeah, I'm getting her last name right. And Bea was a bit terrified from the woman upstairs, and, just ran away, and yeah, but that was very strange at first. I mean, she did see someone running, but also, when peeping through the door hole, she did see a human, yeah, we see someone looking through the door hole as well. Just, yeah, it was very strange. But anyways, to speed things up some, because then, at one point, when Bea, once again visiting the hospital, well, she comes across, someone in the hospital and, well, starts to befriend this patient who is a young boy named Benjamin, being played by Alan Kim, yeah. And Benjamin, well, his leg/foot got broken, and he also tries to mention something of his privates, Caucus, however he says it, but then he just to put it this, he says butt, and yeah, something happened to his butt or something, just, and B was kind of chuckling a little bit, yeah. And it's nice to see that didn't take too long for there to be a friendship struck between them, yeah. And also Benjamin at times mentioning to be about the fact that he's unable to watch TV because the TV in his hospital room is broken. It's not working. Even Benjamin at one point thinks that maybe his mom had something to do with this. But anyways, and yeah. B, again, whenever at times, visiting her dad in the hospital, and still, the dad acting like a goofball and a kid at heart, just, yeah, and the fact that he won't stop. From B and Janet, saying to him, you gotta stop. And his simple response is, never. Why? Just, yeah, I mean, there's no reason to stop being a kid at heart, Anyways, still, to speed things up because, yeah, when B would discover on whom she stumbled upon and whom is upstairs in the same apartment building. Well, at one point she happens to see them out in the streets once again in the evening. And just so happens that whom she saw, like, looking through the door hole, well, it is a guy, and that being Cal. And Cal being played by Deadpool himself, Ryan Reynolds, yeah. And that was a big year for Ryan Reynolds, right? Because he did this, and then a couple of months later, yeah, do I even need to say the name? Anyways, but, she follows them and, well, can see that Cal, he's making his way through a window and going into a child's bedroom because basically Cal and this mysterious figure that B saw, they're looking for someone. And, well, apparently it's this giant purple furry guy. How else to describe him? But, yeah. Well, that being Blue, which being spelled B-L-U-E, the color blue. But he's purple. Well, that's because, he's an imaginary friend. And yeah, when we discover and see, because, yeah, Cal, him interacting with an imaginary friend, which being Blue, the reason he's named Blue is because, well, a kid he was previously an imaginary friend of is colorblind and couldn't make out that, yeah, because couldn't see purple, instead seeing blue. So that's how the purple furry imaginary friend got the name Blue. And Blue being voiced by good old Steve Carell. And this is Steve Carell's first voice acting role besides Despicable Me. After Horton Hears a Who. Again, besides Despicable Me, this is his first voice role since Horton Hears a Who. And to also put it this, his first voice role that's not something Despicable Me. Does that make sense? Yeah. Anyways, so yeah, and well, Steve Carell, how can he not disappoint? Yeah, he of course did really good at voicing this imaginary friend. Well, If, for short. They're called Ifs. Also, the mentioning of what if and so on in the movie and what they explain. But yeah, basically, Blue, this If, was with this child, but apparently Cal, and he knows this, that this child was crying for 1 hour, and Blue was trying to attend and comfort the child, but yeah, nothing was working, and Blue has to be brought back in and to find another kid for him to be an imaginary friend to, etc. And at one point, Blue was about to sneeze, and that occurs a good chunk of times in this movie where Blue, seems as though that Blue has allergies. And, well, Cal trying to get Blue to not sneeze, and Blue's trying not to, but eventually he does sneeze, and, Cal, he tips over, he falls, he hits some of the kids' toys, but thankfully he hides under the bed, and yeah, whew, coast is clear. And then them getting out of the window, and B is right there seeing this, and when someone else approaches B, which being another if, and this causes B to pass out, and when she wakes up, she finds herself in a different place in the apartment, Brooklyn apartment. And when she comes face to face with Blue, but also the other if, which, being, well, obviously she'd be right up top here in the cast. Yeah, right here. Right next to Steve Crow, yes. IMDb, as always, I have that up. Blossom, who, the way she looks, like, for one thing, she has antennas. So she's some kind of bug, whatever kind of bug she is. And Blossom being voiced by the one and only Phoebe Waller-Bridge. How can you not recognize a voice like Bridges? Seriously, by this point, yeah. And of course, yeah, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, she too was excellent in this movie, voicing one of the ifs. And yeah, like, she doesn't, like, really over-the-top freak out or anything, you know, just very shocked by this and wondering who they are, and yeah, and when they do explain to B about the whole thing of imaginary friends and if for short, and even when getting to meet Cal, and yeah, Cal, like, I didn't quite expect this, that Cal, he almost throughout the film is kind of a grouch, and him stuck with helping these imaginary friends, if for short, to find kids for them to be with, and so on. And this whole, like, you know, business on, you know, real estate agency, you know, for imaginary friends, which is pretty funny, but also creative. Not to mention that from Blue and Blossom, like, I did mention this, where Blue was with a kid who I said, you know, was colorblind, but that kid had grown up. Well, and obviously the same goes for Blossom. So any imaginary friend who was with a kid, but then the kids got older, the imaginary friends were forgotten, and thus, the imaginary friends, the ifs for short, finding new kids to be their imaginary friends. Yeah. Yeah, so it's pretty funny, and, you know, the first time that B meets with them, and it doesn't take too long for her to quickly understand on all this and what they explain to her, yeah. So thankfully, yeah, she handles it pretty well later on, and, well, her saying goodbye, and when we see her again, well, back in her and her grandmother's apartment, and her waking up next morning, and, well, maybe it was a dream or something. Maybe it was just one time, and the last time she would see those ifs and such, but not really, because when she would go back to the hospital, and every time, you know, she would bring flowers to her dad, and even when at one point, she started, like, bringing one piece of flower, giving it to Benjamin, but at one point, she didn't see Benjamin in the hospital room. He was nowhere to be seen. And in his bed, hospital bed, under the sheets were some dinosaur figures and such. But yeah, but it was still nice of her to leave one flower for him. And then at one point, she happens to see Blue. Blue is present at the hospital. And even when at one point he's hiding in a cart with, you know, doctor's clothes and stuff like that, and B, you know, still seeing Blue, just like, why is he here? What's he doing here? And, you know, can't be seen with him. But when Benjamin pops in, because, yeah, he's in a different hospital room, and B happens to be right outside of the hospital room where Benjamin is, well, Benjamin can't see Blue, and he's asking B who she's talking to. So, yeah, so only B, including Cal, they're the only two that can see these ifs. Yeah. After that, well, B drops off Blue back at the Brooklyn apartment and such, and, you know, she's wondering, why is she still seeing them? And I think it's obvious, right? It's a Star Wars joke, because Blue's saying to B that you're the chosen one. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, but technically he's not wrong. And as the movie proceeds, what happens next? And they further explain, you know, from Cal, kind of, but yeah, again, him being a grouch and just, yeah. But mostly, yeah, from, say, Blue and especially Blossom, you know, explaining more to be on this whole thing of, still, ifs, finding new kids and stuff like that, and maybe, and it seems like, that, yeah, and even to say Blossom and Blue, that B could help out possibly. And, there's a reason why she's seen them. And just, yeah. And that's when, she decides that, maybe she should help out. And the further conversations that they have, and, when, B talks with Cal some, and, But when, B decides to help them out, well, they're going to need more help, because Cal knows someone where they can get started and help out with, these imaginary friends, ifs for short, to find new kids and stuff like that. So first order of business that they do is take a subway train and make their way to an abandoned fair and such, near the ocean on a dock and such, apparently it used to be magical, and especially for the ifs, and them making their way into the fair, and the one ride in the fair, with the swings, they basically, Cal opens a secret door, and they make their way down, like it's like a basement, and we see and discover, and with B seeing this for the first time, this place underneath the fair, and under one attraction there, this place where these ifs reside. And yeah, it's pretty creative, and this is where we see more of these if characters, and man oh man, because whom they had gotten to voice these ifs, and still, the design and look to these if characters, creative and awesome, right? Just, yeah. Because even when B, getting a couple of times getting distracted, looking and staring at these ifs, and these ifs that we see, and if you were to, when, first watching this movie, and if anybody would not see the credits or look on the IMDb page, if you were to recognize some of those voices the first time, I know I did, a few of them, but so just to name all of them, the ifs. We have Bubble, who is basically a bubble. Bubble being voiced by Awkwafina. There's Unicorn, which of course being a unicorn, being voiced by Krasinski's wife, Emily Blunt. Yeah, it wouldn't be the same with not having Blunt in one of her hubby's movies. There's Spaceman, who's literally an astronaut. We never see his face, but, what's the point? Spaceman being voiced by George Clooney. There's Ice, which literally, it's an ice cube in a glass of water. The glass of water to Ice has arms and legs, and the face is the ice cube, and Ice being voiced by Bradley Cooper. And the way he voices Ice, almost identical to what he brought to the voice performance of Rocket Raccoon, right? Because it's almost as though that Ice almost sounds exactly identical to Rocket's voice, I mean, that's Bradley Cooper for you. There's also Flower, literally a flower, being voiced by Matt Damon. And how can you not also recognize his voice, especially since he's got a great voice for voice acting? Banana. Literally an if who's a banana, being voiced by Bill Hader. There's also Art Teacher. Art Teacher is one of those things that you would mostly see at Michael's, and I had one of those, that you would use to draw and such, those, figures. You can also use them for stop motion. I'm sure you know what it is. Being voiced by Richard Jenkins. There's also Slime, literally a glob of slime, being voiced by good old Keegan-Michael Kay. Octopus, which literally it's a cat who dresses up like an octopus. But that's the name of the if. the octopus being voiced by Ryan Reynolds' wife, Blake Lively. And it was that same year for If. It was a big year for Blake as well. This and It Ends With Us. Yeah. I'm just saying, but yeah. But it's nice to see. Hey, it's nice to see that for Krasinski and Reynolds, they each got their wives to lend a voice to If characters. How fitting is that? Just yeah. But yeah, there's also it's nice to see how he's credited. Yeah, Magician Mouse, who's literally a mouse as a magician, being voiced by Sebastian. I'm probably gonna butcher his name. Manzicalso? Is that right? I'm sure you know who I'm talking about, and I know I've probably seen him before in other movies, but yeah, he's the voice of the Magician Mouse. There's also Cosmo. Cosmo is this mysterious figure who wears a trench coat and a hat, like a detective or something, a secret agent or something, and Cosmo being voiced by Christopher Meloni. Hope I'm getting his last name right. Again, you know me sometimes. There's Ghost, who's literally a ghost, but he's a king ghost, and yeah, the ghost, as he's called, being voiced by Matthew Rhys. And there's Guardian Dog, who's a dog. He's a superhero, basically, a dog superhero. Guardian Dog being voiced by good old Sam Rockwell. And there's an alligator, a red stuffed alligator, yeah, to best put at it, being voiced by Maya Rudolph, and Gummy Bear, literally a gummy bear, of course, being voiced by Amy Schumer. I think that's how her last name's pronounced. Yeah, for sure. There's also there are 3 others, but credited only, huh? Oh, okay. Now I see. But, okay. There's Viola. I think I'm saying that right? Yeah, being voiced by Allison Seeger. And Robot. There's literally an If who's a robot being voiced by Jon Stewart. Also, at times, there would be, out of all of the Ifs, there's one If who we never see. And apparently, If comes from the floor, I guess. To put it this, like, multiple times where this invisible If causes Cal to trip over, and just get frustrated. That If being named Keith. And apparently, well, we never hear his voice, but he's credited. He's credited as the voice of Keith. Well, not really, because, credit only. Brad Pitt. Why? We never hear Keith's voice. Is that just for a joke? I guess. I don't know, but anyways, and do we even want to know what Keith actually looks like? Because again, Keith being invisible, you never see him. You know when he's present, when he's not, when he trips over somebody. So yeah. Anyways, okay, so since I've named all of the Ifs, because yeah, when they make their way through the place, and at times, B would look and stare at some of the Ifs, even when, like, there's one room where it's like a council meeting or something, or like, there's one If who's a cat who watches TV, and when, we see the art teacher, and Cal asking the art teacher if he knows whom it is that they're going to meet is where he is nearby, so yeah. Okay, so the one If that they meet with is, I didn't name him already, did I? Because, no, here he is. He's way up top, yeah, because, yeah, on the IMDb page, Carell and Bridge, they're up top, the main cast voicing them, but yeah. So the one If that they meet, specifically, and we learn that this If is what started this business. That being a teddy bear, an old teddy bear. He acts like an old man. And apparently, according to Cal, the teddy bear If is 93. Yeah. The teddy bear If being named, or that's the other way around. The If teddy bear being named Lewis. and Lewis being voiced by the late Louis Gossett Jr. Yeah, and this was one of his last films. Not to mention, to go ahead and mention this, like there's a dedication to Gossett Jr. at the end of the movie, which was very nice. Yeah, and yeah, Gossett Jr.'s voice performance as Lewis. Of course, it's so good, heartwarming, just, yeah. Lewis meeting Bee for the first time. There was even some other If characters, some of them where they were a bit surprised to see the presence of a human girl, but yeah, nothing too extreme, of course, you know, not like, oh my gosh, like, no, not really, just, you know, they were a bit surprised too, they didn't expect to see a human approach and be here with Cal, but yeah, anyways. The first conversations that Lewis and Bee have, even Lewis pointing out to Bee that Cal used to be a clown and making someone special smile, just, yeah. But for Cal, that's no more, and he's, you know, sadly changed, but yeah. And again, him being a grouch almost throughout the film at times. Nothing too extreme with him being a grouch, of course, like, not being like, say, a Ebenezer Scrooge or that kind of character, you know what I mean? Just, yeah. Well, Lewis, giving some Bee encouragement that, well, Bee can do something with this place. Basically, like, can shaping things up, with this place where the Ifs reside. By using her imagination, she can do anything. And she does so, and sure enough, we see the floors, the walls, everything get a makeover. And a montage and, you know, sequence, I should say, where, yeah, everything changes in a brand fresh new way from the floors. Like, the floors are now like that iconic, you know, black and white square floor, you know, that. The rooms start to get bigger, the hallways, everything, and Cal, unable to take this, like, just, yeah, and him running around the place, and when, yeah, things are looking better for the Ifs, like, a pool room looks grand and such, and even we see Blossom and Blue be there, and yeah, and even poor Cal, because like him accidentally, you know, falling into the pool, or, you know, like, say, ending up on a beach and coming across and walking by this boy with his imaginary friend, which being a gator, and he makes his way out of a painting, and the parts of the painting, like, are smeared on him, just pretty funny, and because he made his way into the art class, and when at one point going into this one room, and it's like an 80s rock band or something, and the cat that we saw earlier watching TV is watching that, and a little dance number that we get from the Ifs and Bee, and it's all her doing, because yeah, it's thanks to her, she's now made this location where the Ifs reside better than ever, and her in a little dancing gear with a top hat, and the, you know, them dancing and trying to get Cal into the dancing move, but not really. Even he's in like 80s rock band getup and such with that 80s rock hair. Just, yeah, it was pretty funny, but that was great to see. And sure enough, because yeah, business officially begins for Bee and Cal to help find these Ifs, find special homes for them, and to be more precise, find a new kid for them. And just so happens that Bee knows a kid who would be perfect for him to have an If, and that, of course, being Benjamin. So, and like what we saw in the trailer, and seeing this fully, where, yeah, from Bee, Cal, and Lewis, yeah, because they are interviewing all of the Ifs, and, you know, montage of them interviewing them, and bringing in some at one point into the hospital, so hopefully Benjamin can see one of them. But sadly, by that point, he's unable to see any of them. And we saw all of the Ifs, like the Ifs that I named out, yeah, we see them, but there's one If that we didn't see until now, that John Krasinski voices, that being Marshmallow. And it was already given away in the trailers, which I'm sure you know by now. Any of you that saw the trailers, I know I did, because I reacted to one of them, where B is, finding it hard to stare, and like, what is she supposed to stare at the marshmallow? Because the marshmallow is on fire, and one of his eyes is coming down. It was funny. If there's one moment where, they interview Blue, and maybe possibly Blue could be the if that Benjamin can see, and Blue can be the new imaginary friend to Benjamin. And Blue, like, when he's being interviewed and the talk that he gives to B, Cal, and Lewis, it's pretty funny, even when it gets a bit emotional, and he was almost about to drink ice. Yeah, the ice, one of the ifs, like, he was almost about to drink, and oh, Blue. Well, thankfully, nothing bad happened to Ice, and even Ice was complaining about his life and what he's like as an if. It's funny. Understandable for him, but yeah. Anyways, and even like, yeah, some of the other ifs that have their moments when they're first being interviewed, and when some of them are handpicked to, well, interact, and hopefully Benjamin can see them, like, from, say, Guardian Dog and Magician Mouse. They were pretty funny. Especially Guardian Dog was the tempered one, so, yeah. But, yeah, sadly, none of them Benjamin could see. And after that, well, there was a moment where, because they're outside of the fair, it's dusk, the sun's going down, and, well, B, she sees Lewis on a bench, goes up to him, and the conversation that they have, because, yeah, unfortunately, B informs Lewis that nothing worked, Benjamin didn't see any of them, and Lewis telling B that maybe it wasn't meant to be. And then, talking about, like, say, memories, and, and basically, even though when the kids grow up, they still need their imaginary friends, and, also Lewis telling B, and makes a good point that, things that we love so much cannot be forgotten, how he puts at it. And Lewis shares a memory with B, and having B think of that memory too, imagining it. The good old days, and when, like, say, the fair wasn't abandoned, and in the evening time especially, it was jam-packed, and yeah. And then, a song that plays during this, L is for the way you look, if that song, yeah. Whenever I would think and listen to that song, I would, and I'm sure you guys would think so too, I would immediately think of, say, The Parent Trap, right? Because, yeah, The Parent Trap, come on, because that film is most known, like, for, well, I mean, having that song, but more than that, anyways. But yeah, it's like one of those movies that you would think of that would have certain songs. It's like, Power of Love, you would immediately think of Back to the Future. There you go. There's a good example right there. Anyways, so yeah, so B experiencing and seeing one of Lewis's memories when, yeah, in the old days, I want to say, like, looks like it's in the 40s or 50s. Either one, yeah. When the fair was jam-packed and everybody was there, and yeah, shall we, as B asks Lewis, and yeah, making their way into the fair, and seeing all the other ifs having a great time. Even Blue, he's definitely having a lot of fun, especially, like, he's wearing, like, I want to say, like, a top hat and also a mustache, which is pretty funny. And seeing the different ifs and what they're doing, just, yeah. It's a good moment right there, for sure. Okay, and to speed things up some, because, yeah, I think, yeah, later in that evening and such, yeah, because, well, still, when things are, they're looking okay, kind of, even though, they failed in succeeding on, for Benjamin to have an imaginary friend and such, still. But after the whole thing between B and Lewis and a memory of Lewis's, yeah, well, and, B's dad's still doing okay so far at the hospital. And we don't know exactly, like, what surgery it is that B's dad is doing. But I think we can presume at a certain point. Yeah, but anyways. Well, by the way, because, yeah, a moment between B and her grandmother where they're having dinner. And, well, B, at one point asking her grandmother on what she wanted to be, who she wanted to be when she was a kid. And B's grandmother, saying to B that, she wanted to be a dancer, and yeah, what she talks about to her granddaughter on when she was a little girl wanting to be a dancer, but yeah, what happened later on and didn't get to be one, even like, when she got older, just, yeah, it's a bit emotional, yeah. And, well, Bee then discovers and learns something that, well, when she makes her way upstairs and, meets with Cal and the others, she learns and points to Blossom that Blossom used to be her grandmother's imaginary friend. And, yeah, that's interesting. And, well, I mean, Blossom, she explains to Bee that, she always tried being there and talking with her and such, but, Bee's grandmother forgetting and not seeing Blossom, just, yeah, but maybe, possibly, and with what Bee is figuring out and, coming up with an idea, maybe there's a chance that Blossom can reconnect with Bee's grandmother. And what happens next is, well, Bee, along with Blossom, making their way back there, quietly, and, Bee sneaking over and, well, putting a record player in the record, a record in the record player and such, and basically it's a record album of Spartacus, and, well, by placing it in, hiding behind a couch, she turned it on, music from Spartacus plays, the grandmother's confused and, why it's turned on such, but she was about to turn it off, but then something strikes her and she starts to dance. And then Blossom joins in dancing when, out of nowhere, Blossom begins to glow orange, and, well, she then grows wings. She's technically a butterfly. Yeah, we learned that she's a butterfly and she starts to dance too, the exact same dance moves that Bee's grandmother is doing, and Cal being right outside and watching this and witnessing this, and yeah, it's a very beautiful and touching moment, right? And yeah, and I was wondering, like, is Bee's grandmother gonna turn around and see Blossom? Well, that doesn't happen, but overall it was a very touching and beautiful moment right there. Just, yeah. And also, we see that Bee's grandmother, a very delightful dancer. Yeah. Even at her age, just, and, well, then, and to speed things up still, because they try this again when, thanks to Cosmo, the mysterious agent, comes to Bee's window. He basically helped her, give her information on whom she's gonna go after next with an and, well, that being Jeremy. Yeah. Jeremy, who was who's the colorblind boy, who, yeah, Blue used to be the imaginary friend to and such. And Jeremy, Jeremy being played by, well, yeah, here he is. Jeremy being played by Bobby Moynihan, if I'm getting his last name right. We know who he is, and he's a funny guy, and most notably, he's been on SNL, done a lot more goofy stuff, just, yeah. So that's whom they're gonna go after next, and hopefully, the same thing can happen, like what happened with Bee's grandmother and Blossom, and them walking their way through the main streets of New York, Big Apple and such, and at one point they spot Jeremy. And Jeremy at one point stopped at at a coffee shop or something, and still, they're following him, and even when at one point, making their way to an office building, and, then making their way, and for Blue to get up close to Jeremy and to reconnect with him. Even when, at first, Blue did blow it when he tried to interact and reconnect with him in a restroom. That didn't go so well. Then it occurs to Bee when the mentioning of food, is mentioned. And she got croissants, and when they make their way in the waiting room of this office building, her opening the box of croissants and eating it, and, and Blue trying to reconnect with Jeremy. It seems like it's working at first. And when he starts to glow, but that doesn't last that long. It wasn't enough when, Jeremy is called in, like he's, being called into the business office room and such, and, yeah, so then what happens next is he's nervous. He's nervous about stepping in. Now, I presume probably this was his first time, I want to say. It seems like it, because how can you not be nervous, depending on you, just if you would be nervous on certain things that you're doing for the first time. Hey, I've been there too, so have we not all? Anyways, what happens next is Blue, again, attempts to approach Jeremy and, well, touching him, basically calming him down. And yeah, that's when Blue, once again, glows. He fully does. And even off to the side, a mirror, those mirror walls, we see a young Jeremy, a small glimpse of a young Jeremy being played by David Weissman, if I'm getting the last name right, I don't know. Oh, by the way, the 7-year-old girl who we saw early on in the film, whom, Blue was attempting to be a new imaginary friend to of this 7-year-old girl, that was, Saraya Paris Johnson, if I'm getting her first name right, but yeah. Also, the Respitenus, however that word is pronounced, the office building, that was being played by Laquette Charnel Pringle. Yeah, I think I'm getting that right, but yeah. Overall, it goes really well. Blue reconnecting with Jeremy, assuring him that it'll be okay, and Jeremy feels the same way too now. It'll be okay, and when he steps in, it's gonna go well, without a doubt. Yeah, so that was a great moment too right there. Great to see that from Bee's grandmother, and then to Jeremy, with Blossom and Blue reconnecting with their old kid friends. They used to be imaginary friends too. Yeah, that went really well, and especially by that point, Bee and Cal, they make a great team / a partnership. Yeah. And to speed things up some, because, later on, and even after there's a little, what's the word, graduation or something, because everybody at the location, the fair, with all the ifs, they celebrate and, congratulate Blue for what had happened, because, that was great right there. And after all that, Bee, making her way back to her grandmother's apartment, at that apartment building in Brooklyn, and, the grandmother's a bit worried, but not on Bee, because even when Bee assures her that she's all right and was with some friends, it's not Bee that she was really worried about or anything. It's because of Bee's father, apparently, because Bee's grandmother got a call from the hospital, and they have to make their way to the hospital. Bee is worried now on maybe possibly, and it seems like it at first, that Bee's gonna lose her father now. She first lost her mother, but to lose another parent, especially at this age, it's never good. It's not easy. Never is easy. And she rushes upstairs and, getting some help from Cal, and, she can't do this and, lose another one. And the talk that Cal gives, is pretty good. Just, encouraging her and stuff like that. But but sure enough, when Bee and her grandmother make their way to the hospital, Bee making her way straight to her dad's hospital room, and all the ifs, including Cal, are there, just, wishing her the best of luck. And when Bee, sees her dad in his hospital bed, he's not awake, but even Janet told Bee that he's, resting right now, so, and also, this was mentioned from the very start on a story that Bee was working on. And even when, Bee doing some narration from the start of this movie and at the end of the film, apparently, according to Bee, her mom always wanted her daughter to tell her a story. And basically, the story not being about the mother, but about, I guess, her and so on. Just, And, even when her dad asks her, like, how the story's going, and just, yeah. Even B mentioned early on that, she now has a job. Little does her dad know what it is, basically. And that's another thing. I was kind of wondering, but I didn't go into it thinking of this. Like, how is everybody else in New York and in Brooklyn? How are they going to react to what B is doing? Because, well, we saw that earlier when Brooklyn asked B who she's talking to. So, that. Well, there was another moment where the woman at the front desk of that office building did see that B was being hugged by Blue, but of course she couldn't see Blue, and the way that B was positioned being hugged. Yeah, so I was thinking, like, what's gonna happen? Like, oh, don't tell me, like, there's gonna be, like, a moment where... But, no. Thankfully, there's none of that. And that's good. Yeah. Yeah, but overall, because, point being is that with B, finally telling the story that she's been working on, and to put it this, like, about a kid, being close with someone and losing, like, someone very close, like, how she puts at it and what she says to her dad, it's very emotional, and man, again, Cailey Fleming doing really good in this movie, and yeah, she was good at this moment right here. And when she breaks down, tears are coming out, and when she finally breaks down and holding her dad's hand. But thankfully, her dad didn't die. He technically was awake, but yeah, just quietly not doing anything and listening to all that she said. So nothing really bad happened to her dad. I want to say, like, it was something minor or something because he had stitches, like, whatever it was. It all turned out good. And even when B assuring and telling her grandmother that dad is all right and just, yeah. And after that, well, B apparently, she can no longer see the ifs, nor Cal. Well, and this obviously has to do with what just happened and when B told that story to her dad and from there on, just, yeah. And then later, well, she tries to, hopefully if she'll see them again, goes upstairs in that one room in that Brooklyn apartment, bringing something to them, and calling out to Cal to open the door. But there's no answer. Even when the woman upstairs, she pops up once again, and even she tells B that nobody's lived in that room, and by opening it, there's nothing. And besides, the room now looks completely different than what we saw. Yeah, apparently she can no longer see the ifs, but what about Cal? And I'm pretty sure, I think it did for me, because it made me realize that, oh, he was an if too? But not just any if. Because, well, B, she did have an imaginary friend, and it was mentioned, I think, yeah, because, like, but yeah, because after she no longer sees the ifs, and after her dad gets out of the hospital, they're packing up and they're about to head on home and such. And even, when B's dad, tells her that they can always come back and visit, yeah, the grandmother and such. Well, when packing the stuff in the trunk of the car, there's a box that drops, and yeah, all the stuff that she had. One drawing in particular that has her dad, and her mom in it at the fair, and well, there's a clown in that drawing. And remember when it was mentioned by Lewis about Cal being a clown? Right there. And I want to say that's a twist, right? Yeah, a good twist where, yeah, Bree's imaginary friend was a clown, and it was Cal. Cal is an if, a human if, who was a clown. That's him. And her running back upstairs, even passing by her grandmother, and, sitting down the drawing and, being a kid once again, calling herself a kid again, and, with the specific dialogue that she says, and, well, closing her eyes, and, well, sure enough, they're right there in plain sight, and Cal dressed up as a clown once again. And even when they go for a hug, even Cal, he glows, and it's a very emotional part as well, of course. And Blue, he offers them a tissue, and they both say gross. Yeah, again, at times when Blue sneezed, and the first time he tried to approach Jeremy at that restroom, Yeah, because when he sneezed, that's why it didn't go so well. It's pretty funny. But yeah, all ends well, and well, it's great to see that now, B, she can, see the ifs again, including her very own imaginary friend, Cal. And thus, B and her dad driving off, and the grandmother, talking to herself, or is she, turns and asks, head back inside. She can see Blossom again, and Blossom is surprised by this, and boom, we get the title of the film, once again, If, and yeah. Then, we get one last sequence, a montage, where now Cal is in business fully, where, yeah, getting all the other Ifs reuniting / reconnecting with, the kids who are now adults, we learn that each of these Ifs, and whom they were imaginary friends to, well, Cosmo, he was the If to, he's here somewhere in the credits, IMDb sometimes, well, I'm missing him. The deli guy. Jeez. How was I missing him? The deli guy. Yeah, Cosmo was the If to the deli guy. So now the deli guy can see him once again and causing some stuff in the convenience store to knock over. Janet, the nurse, her imaginary friend being the stuffed, what was it? The stuffed dinosaur, the stuffed gator, sorry. Yeah, the stuffed gator that Maya Rudolph voices, yeah, the alligator. Also the woman at the front desk of that office building, her imaginary friend being the unicorn. It's great to see, because, yeah, some of those human characters that we saw, they didn't have big parts, but they had a big part with whom their imaginary friends used to be, and when they're reunited. And seeing all the others reunite with, their old kid friends, great to see. And even when we come to the last one where, yeah, we see B and her dad walk into their home, and, well, the dad trips over. It's Keith. Of course, there's only one If in this movie causing someone to trip over. Yeah, it's Keith. So Keith was the If to B's dad. So great to see. And that's it. That's how the movie ends, with that last sequence / montage. And yeah, where all the Ifs reunite with the kids who are now adults, reconnecting and such, yeah. And even after the credits, as I mentioned this earlier, a dedication to Louis Gossett Jr. Yeah, a couple of clips of Louis that are played, and yeah, in memory of our, in loving memory of our friend Louis Gossett Jr. How fitting! Just yeah, what a fitting way to end off that movie. Hilarious, heartwarming. Just yeah, it was good. It was a good ending. Yeah, If. It's a really good, delightful, sweet, cute, fun film. All the way, just, yeah, in my opinion especially, and I'm sure, again, the same goes for some of you guys. Everything from beginning to end, the story, the cast of characters, the design and look to the Ifs, very creative, of course, great CG and visual effects in this, the detailing on the If characters, great performances from, Kaylee Fleming, Ryan Reynolds, John Krasinski, Fiona Shaw, and the voice talents of Steve Carell, Phoebe Waller-Bridge, Louis Gossett Jr., Bill Hader, George Clooney, Emily Blunt, Awkwafina, Bradley Cooper, Matt Damon, Richard Jenkins, Keegan-Michael Kay, Blake Lively, the list goes on. Great moments, both funny, emotional, heartwarming, and just, yeah, the music and score, John Krasinski's direction for this movie, everything about If, I think, was really good. And I'm giving If, well, what the heck, 10 out of 10 stars. Yes, 10 out of 10 stars for If. And what about you guys? What did you think of the movie If itself? Did any of you, like me, found this really good? Like, some of you felt that, oh yeah, this looks like it'll be pretty good, but wow, this was really good. Just, yeah. What were some of your favorite moments? Did any of you get a bit emotional? Did you have good laughs? And again, with the great talents of Kaylee Fleming, Ryan Reynolds, who were some of your favorite If characters? Which one did you thought looked cool? Your favorite design and look of these If characters. Yeah, just overall, what do you think of If itself? And with what all I've had to say, my review on it, and yeah, what did you think of my review? Leave comments and give this review video a like, as always. And so, with all that being said, thank you very much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed my review of If. More review videos are coming your way. They're going to be awesome. Keep looking forward. And I'll see you guys in the next video / review. And stay tuned, because what I will be reviewing next, well, to best describe it, let's just say this one science fiction film taking place on a space station, and the name of the space station being called Romulus. Do you know what I'm talking about? I'm sure you guys do. Yeah. Again, stay tuned for that. Take care, and peace out.